Can one day of training destroy all hope for a team? Ferrari seemed to have everything under control in Las Vegas until the SF25 showed its darker side. What really happened that Friday? Subscribe to continue uploading more of this type of content now, if we continue. The Las Vegas Grand Prix was not just another event on Ferrari's calendar. They came from a very hard blow in Brazil, where their weaknesses were exposed against rivals who executed with greater precision, and the pressure began to build from Maranello to the last corner of the team. The Friday of the Las Vegas GP was presented as a vital opportunity to reverse the narrative. The key word was reaction, and the first free practice session offered just that. Or at least that's what it seemed like. Charles Leclerc was the fastest in FP1 with a time of 1 minute and 34.802 seconds. He achieved it in the final minutes when the track began to offer a little more grip and the soft tires began to work better. He surpassed the surprising Alex Albon with the Williams by a very narrow margin and left behind competitors such as Yuki Tsunoda, Max Verstappen, and a Lewis Hamilton, who could barely be 11th, more than 7/10 behind his teammates' time. The result lit a spark of hope. The SF25 responded well, seemed to find grip more easily, and the low-load aerodynamic configuration designed for the long straights of the strip translated into real performance. But as has happened so many times in recent years, at Ferrari they know that a good free time does not always tell the whole story. And even less so on a track like Las Vegas, where the conditions are extreme and the superficial reading can be a mirage. The track, on its first day of real activity, was dirty, dusty, and the temperatures were extraordinarily low. Carlos Sainz was very clear in his description. He said that the sensations were similar to those of Turkey 2020 in the rain. Minimal grip, tires that did not reach the ideal temperature, and a track that seemed more like an enemy than a testing environment. Under these conditions, any team that found a slight advantage could lead the times. Ferrari, with its Monza-style rear wing ultra-lowered to maximize top speed, managed to hide its structural weaknesses for a few laps. But you cannot hide what has not been resolved: its eternal struggle with tire heating, a trend that has followed the SF25 since the beginning of the season, and that manifests itself again when the thermometer drops. What seemed like a declaration of intent from Leclerc quickly became a silent warning. The Monegasque himself acknowledged that the cold conditions have been a problem throughout the year. This is not an exception. It is a rule that has conditioned several sessions in 2025. And while the long straights of the strip favored the Ferrari's design, the car's ability to generate tire temperature in slow corners, especially in sectors with sudden braking and short acceleration, was still poor. That is Ferrari's great dilemma. It's not enough to have speed on straight stretches if you can't sustain the pace lap after lap. The SF25 performs well when mechanical grip is not a problem. But if there is dust on the track, cold in the environment, and a lack of load that prevents generating downforce, then the defects appear one after another. It is not a problem of pilot talent, it is a design limit. And in Formula One, the limits are not forgiving. Las Vegas, with its media spectacularity, is also a technical circuit in disguise. The straights demand efficiency, but the braking zones demand control and traction. Ferrari was half right. Friday looked promising, but deep down, engineers knew they were treading on thin ice. What started as a promising Friday for Ferrari in Las Vegas quickly turned into a raw display of vulnerability. The second free session, FP2, was the breaking point. And not only for the team's performance on the track, but also for their confidence. In Formula One, the key to success is control. And Ferrari lost all control. Charles Leclerc had set the best time in first practice and showed a competitive pace with medium tires in the second, faced one of those situations that no driver or team wants to experience. Just minutes before the end of the session, as he was preparing to begin a crucial session with soft tires, the most important part of Friday for all the teams, his SF25 suddenly stopped after just 5 corners. The message was immediate and devastating. Something broke. Gearbox. His engineer's order was clear and urgent. Don't change gears. Stop the car. It was the worst possible time for a mechanical failure. With only 1 hour of practice per session, losing those minutes was synonymous with strategic blindness for qualifying and the race. The gearbox had completely failed, and with it all the data that Ferrari needed to calibrate its pace in low-load conditions, so critical for the strip layout, disappeared. But the drama didn't end there. The session had been interrupted shortly before by a red flag caused by a structural problem on the circuit, a poorly sealed manhole cover. An immediate déjà vu for Ferrari. Exactly 1 year earlier, on the same route, Carlos Sainz suffered considerable damage due to the same cause. And this time, although there was no physical damage to Leclerc's car, the parallel was inescapable. Again, an external factor, added to the fragility of the car, directly affected the team. When the track was open again, there were just 6 minutes left on the clock. And when Leclerc came out, his car mechanically collapsed. Right after, the same manhole cover moved again as the cars passed, causing a new red flag that ended the session. 0 useful laps for Leclerc with the soft ones. 0 full ranking simulations. 0 data collection in real conditions. And the most worrying thing, 0 immediate solutions. The situation left Ferrari in a dead end. With no time for extensive repairs before qualifying on Saturday, with a car technically compromised and no margin for error in a close battle for the Constructors' Championship, the pressure was increasing exponentially. The team was not only left without technical answers, but also without strategic options. Beyond the specific failure, the incident reflected a structural trend of the SF-25. The mechanical fragility is still there. This car, although fast in low-load configuration, has not proven to be reliable. And on a circuit like Las Vegas, where the demands on braking, traction, and temperature are extreme, that fragility is multiplied. The combination of external and internal failures once again left Ferrari empty-handed at a time when they needed to build momentum, not lose it. When a Friday day in Formula One ends with more questions than answers, the problem is not just technical, it's structural. And that's exactly what happened with Ferrari in Las Vegas. What initially seemed like a setback became a worrying message for Maranello. Its project for 2025 is not as solid as it seemed. The car can be fast, yes, but only under controlled conditions. And that is precisely the big problem. The SF-25 proved to be an extremely delicate machine in terms of its operating window. Outside a very narrow temperature and grip range, performance drops sharply. This limitation, more than an anecdote about a bad Friday, is a technical warning. In a championship as tight as 2025, with McLaren as a solid leader and Mercedes regaining competitiveness, Ferrari cannot afford to give up ground due to avoidable failures. And yet, that's exactly what happened. The gearbox failure not only left Leclerc out of data, it broke the continuity of the team's work, blocked the development of the qualifying setup, and exposed the car's vulnerability to external factors. The loose manhole cover was just the spark that ignited the pent-up frustration. Because it is not the first time that Ferrari has been compromised by incidents of this type, but is one of the few times that they did not know how to react with either an immediate solution or a contingency plan. Technically, the strategy of using a Monza-style rear wing to maximize straight-line speed made sense on paper. But in practice, it created an unresolved dilemma. Without enough downforce, the car became unstable in low-speed areas, and the track's low grip only amplified that defect. Furthermore, straight-line speed is of no use if you cannot brake consistently or adequately warm up the tires. And that is Ferrari's Achilles heel, the inability to maintain the balance between pure speed and technical control. The consequences extend beyond the stopwatch. In a team like Ferrari, every session is an evaluation. Every failure is a sign. And in Las Vegas, the signal was clear. This team is not yet ready to sustain a constant fight for the championship if it does not resolve its lack of operational consistency at the root. Internal confidence falters when you cannot count on the mechanical reliability of the car or the strategic adaptability of the team. Ferrari's great fear for years has been this, having the speed but not the execution. In Las Vegas, that fear became reality. Not because of a lack of talent, but because of limitations that can no longer be made up. While McLaren consolidates its evolution and Mercedes begins to rebuild from solid foundations, Ferrari is once again trapped in the same cycle of technical instability. What happened in Las Vegas was not simply an unlucky Friday for Ferrari. It was an accurate X-ray of his chronic weaknesses. At this point in the season, and with the pressure of the championship increasing race after race, the Scuderia is at a point where it can no longer afford to lose track of its own project. It is not only about what happens on the track, but also about the perception that each unresolved error generates, the image of a team that has not yet overcome its past traumas. Subscribe to continue uploading more of that content. Now you really think about all this.